Welcome to the Wild and Free with Anna Love podcast. I am your host, Anna Love. As a subconscious freedom specialist, I strive to reprogram and reframe generational trauma, not only in myself and the lives of my 3 daughters, but for those who are ready to transform anxiety, fear, and shame into authenticity, freedom, and love. Whether you are 20 years old or 70 years young, buckle up for raw and honest explorations in doing the work necessary so that you may shine your brightest light from your heart and onto the lives of others.
Welcome to Wild and Free with Anna Love podcast. Now, today we are taking a deep dive into something that is really close to my heart. It is called triggers. Years ago, we didn't have the word trigger at our disposal like we do nowadays. And my kids are even using it. I don't know how they learned it, but I think they picked it up somewhere in school. Even they know what the word trigger means. And I was introduced to it a few years ago when I was taking a course at Landmark Worldwide. And now it's such a buzzword. And what does it really mean to be triggered? And more importantly, how can we recognize when we are being triggered? And how can we either prevent it or start to relax it so that certain events don't bring up the feeling of being triggered? Okay, so the short version of what is a trigger is when you can just picture it this way. An event happened a long, long time ago that stayed with you. It is still unresolved. Therefore, it is stuck inside your body. And now, years later, an event occurs and you react. You don't respond, you react. And you typically react in a negative way. Maybe you are shouting. Maybe you are wanting to fight. Maybe you are freezing. Maybe you are wanting to run away. And you can't figure out why this event that's happening is causing this feeling in your body and the way that you are reacting to it. You have absolutely no idea. Now, it could be something like a car cuts you off that's driving in front of you, and you instinctively react and start yelling at the car. Now, obviously, if I say to you, hey, what was the reason for you feeling that way? You're going to blame the other driver. It was the car. Can't you see? The car just almost hit me. If they hit me, then I would be in a car crash. And then all of a sudden I'd have to pay out money or it would ruin my day. All of the things are there to point the finger at the other person and say, they are doing this to me. And doesn't everyone see that I am the victim here? I am obviously the one that's, the one on the short end of the stick here. I didn't even cause this. Can't you see? Can't you validate that I should be mad? What would you do? Wouldn't you be mad, right? So this can be swirling. This is how I used to live. This is why it's so easy for me to talk about this. This is actually something that has happened recently, but in the past, I actually was triggered yesterday by a driver. I did yell at them. So it kind of was recently. But the example that I'm really, really using where I was blaming and I wasn't realizing that it was actually linked to something in the past. So what the trigger is really linked to goes back in the past to something that happened. And it doesn't mean you were 4 years old and you were in, a car crash or you watched your mother yelling at a driver. It just means that there's a feeling that is the same. So let's just stay with the car situation that I just used as an example. Say that you are feeling triggered. And I actually was yesterday. It just wasn't, this victim mindset where I was blaming people, but you're triggered, meaning you're feeling something in your body, and then you just kind of keep going about your day. You don't really give it any thought. You're like, oh yeah, that sucked, and that person's a jerk, right? Or whatever it is that you use to justify like that you're upset. You go about your day, but the feeling is still there. Now, something else happens tomorrow, later that day, next week, and you're triggered again. And what a lot of people say, oh, they're pressing my buttons, right? They know exactly how to get me, how to irritate me. And that's just an old way of saying triggered. So both of those ways of justifying means that there's something unresolved in the past. And the way that we want to deal with it is we want to observe, oh, I'm actually screaming my head off. So when I got triggered yesterday, I actually stopped. I caught myself and I said, oh, that wasn't nice, because I was actually yelling at somebody who almost hit my car from behind because they were just steaming on ahead and not having any regard for me. And that's important to understand the trigger. Okay. So the trigger is I feel that someone is disregarding me. Someone doesn't care that I'm in front of them or that I am in their way. So instead of being polite or being patient with me, they are steaming on ahead. They're basically cutting me off and they're almost hitting my car. And so the trigger for me last night and in the past would be, you actually are treating me like I don't matter. Okay. But in the moment of it all, there's no way that I used to not be able to rationalize this. I would just get angry. I would scream and I would just let that actually ruin the next few moments, if not several moments, whether it be half an hour. I'd get to the place that I was going. I would actually find people to complain about the trigger, to complain because it was still in my body. Have you ever come upon someone and they're actually in a really bad mood, they're in a shitty place, and they might even be tense or they might be shaking. And when you ask them what's happened, they will reference something that happened on their drive into work. Maybe it was 30 minutes prior. They will reference something that happened an hour ago at their house, or even, yesterday. They're still holding on to that trauma. They're living in it. Their nervous system is still being affected by it. And why this is important is that when we take the time to remove ourselves from the event of when we were triggered, we can actually sit and, I like to say, meditate, or just check in with yourself and ask yourself, what am I actually feeling here underneath the event, underneath the initial fight, flight, freeze, or appease, or I think I covered them all. Underneath all of that, what is really there? What are you making it mean? I like to say. And when you check in with yourself and you really ask yourself an honest question, what am I making this mean? Then you can say, oh, I don't feel heard. I don't feel seen. I don't feel respected. I feel steamrolled. I don't matter. And then you can say to yourself, the second question would be, where and when have I felt this before? And if you really, really give yourself some time, you will go back. Your unconscious mind will bring you back to that very event of when the feeling was there for you. Whether you were in a fight with your parents, whether you were, talking to your siblings and they were disregarding you, maybe something at school, something with a friend. So it takes some practice. And the first time that I had learned this technique and what a trigger was, and that I was actually being triggered, I had to, and it wasn't around a car, it was around actually my kids not listening to me and me saying like, please stop, please stop, please stop. And on the fifth time, I would yell, I would say enough. And I would shut the whole thing down, whatever they were doing. And it was becoming this really annoying habit of mine to raise my voice. And I wanted to get to the bottom of it, but I was feeling so anxious inside that it took me, I think it was 4 times, that 4 different separate instances that I was getting triggered about the same situation. And I would have to go in another room and I would sit with myself. And finally, my unconscious mind brought me there. I trusted myself enough on an unconscious level to take myself to where I was 10 years old. And even though I couldn't elicit a picture, I could elicit a feeling in my body. And I was able to say, oh my gosh, I don't feel heard. That's where I felt this feeling before. And what am I making it mean? What am I making this feeling mean? It means that I don't matter. So when I was telling my children, hey, can you please talk nicer to your sister? Can you please stop doing that? Whatever it was. And they continued to not listen to me and they continued to do the very thing that was triggering me. I felt unheard, back to me being 10. And that's when I would lash out, because at 10 years old, I was not in a place of being able to lash out. I was not allowed to lash out. I would get in trouble if I lashed out. So there was a part of me from a younger time, decades before, that had created a story around not being able to speak my mind, having to suppress my feelings. And then years later, in my 30s and 40s, it was still in my body, and someone would push my buttons, right? Or someone would trigger me. And all of a sudden I was 10 years old again in my emotional frequency, right? In my nervous system, even in my mind. This is how I was reacting to the situation in front of me. So that is a quick explanation and a couple of examples. So I want you to think about, how do you get triggered? How often do you get triggered? And then when you, and asking yourself, hey, I'm going to put this in my mind's eye so that it's something that I'm going to be thinking about. And I'm going to move through my day. And every time that I feel something rising in my chest, or my head starting to get hot, or my heartbeat is increasing, and I'm feeling some sort of way that I would consider it being triggered, or someone's pushing my buttons, I'm actually going to allow myself the freedom to stop engaging and remove myself from the situation, going to sit in the bathroom, going to sit in the bedroom, going to stand in another room. And then I'm going to calm my breathing. And breath work is the fastest way to calm your breathing. Just taking a few short, quick breaths through your nose and then out your mouth. And when you do that several times, you will start to de-escalate the feelings that are happening in your body. And then you can ask yourself the two questions. Where have I felt this feeling before? And when you're able to capture that, what am I making it mean? And then if you're able to give yourself another few moments to then take that knowledge and bring it into the event that just occurred, and see if there's a relationship between the two. See if there's a pattern that looks similar to something from your past. And let me know how that goes for you. I'd love to hear. And thank you so much for listening. And I will catch you next time.
If today's episode sparked something inside of you, I've got something special to help you take the next step. Check out my free ebook, Design a Life That Lights You Up. 5 simple steps to quiet the inner critic and discover a deep sense of self-worth. Inside, I walk you through step 1, conquer the critic. Learn how to silence the negative voice in your head. Step 2, cultivate self-worth. Build a foundation of confidence from the inside out. Step 3, listen to your body. Tap into the wisdom your body holds to guide your decisions. Step 4, embrace change and overcome fear. Break through the barriers holding you back. Step 5, visualize and set intentions. Align with your vision and create a life that truly lights you up. This guide is designed to help you reconnect with yourself, quiet the noise, and step into the life you deserve. Download your copy now by clicking the link in the show notes, and let's get started on your journey to a more joyful, purposeful life. Until next time, remember, you're worthy, you're capable, and your light is meant to shine. Ready to take the next step in designing a life you love? The Life Design Blueprint membership is your all-access pass to exclusive tools, live guidance, and transformational support to help you move from self-doubt to self-worth. Building on the principles from the Design a Life That Lights You Up ebook, this membership is a deeper dive into creating a life that aligns with who you truly are. You will go beyond surface level self-help with hypnotic techniques and live discussions that create real lasting change in your mindset and life. You will receive ongoing support from me and connect with a community of like-minded women on a similar journey. Each week, I deliver an empowering hypnosis which offers a unique way of working with your subconscious to reframe limiting beliefs, elevate self-worth, and reinforce positive habits. All of our sessions will be recorded and added to our on-demand library for easy access to members. Join me by clicking the link below, and I'll see you on the inside.
Well, thank you so much for tuning into Wild and Free with Anna Love and being a part of this magical journey with me. If you like this episode, make sure to subscribe and share with someone you love, even someone you just like. Bonus points if you leave a review. Show notes below gives you everything that you'll need to know, and I'll see you next time. So long for now.